Hi there. Welcome to the second edition of Boo and the Stash. It is Tuesday before Thanksgiving. So for this installment, I thought I would spend some time sharing some memories of my childhood of holiday family gatherings. Thanksgiving's about giving thanks and being thankful for what you have and the many blessings that you've had in your life. Well, one of the blessings I've had in my life was Point Douglas Road. That was the home of Adeline and Walter Bublitz, my grandparents, who lived there at Point Douglas. The home is no longer there. It is now part of a park. My grandparents are no longer with us either. But those memories and their words and their kindness, the lessons they taught me, still are. So that's kind of what I'm up to tonight when I talk about these things. Point Douglas Road. It was a gathering place. Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, family celebrations, graduations, weddings, summer barbecues, all flood through my memory of this place. It's at Point Douglas Road, and there's a movie tape somewhere of me with Grandpa, and I'm 2 years old, and I'm digging in his pocket for blackjack gum. And to this day, I still like black licorice, despite maybe some of the popular candy trends that are out there. I was introduced to Lefse, this potato product with butter and brown sugar on it, and sometimes honey and other things that were just unbelievable. The house itself, as a young person, it was huge. There was a living room, a kitchen, a dining room, upstairs bedrooms, a porch with French doors on it. They had a fireplace in the living room, a grandfather clock, a TV console with a phonograph record in it. The TV console was black and white. Grew up with black and white, didn't see a color TV until I moved away to college. Out back, there was a sleeping porch. So on the summer nights, or even summer afternoons, there was a breeze coming down the hill off the bluff, and it would cool the back porch, and we'd take our summer naps there. There were rope swings on the hillside, sometimes as many as 3, and cousins and brothers and sisters always fought over which one they got to swing on. Some had more risk than others. They swung out over steep drop-offs, and it felt almost as if you were flying. My brothers and sisters and I always would spend weekends at Grandma and Grandpa's house. And it was never all of us. It was one at a time. I guess we were a handful to deal with. But I remember there were squabbles over whose turn it was to go to Grandma and Grandpa's. And it was just this wonderful feeling to know that, yes, you had victory and you got to go to Grandma and Grandpa's that weekend. And the other 3 had to stay home and be with Mom and Dad. One particular family gathering, I remember my cousin Randy lamenting with jealousy that how we got to see Grandma and Grandpa every week, because that's where we lived. We lived in suburbs of St. Paul, and it was about a 30-minute car ride to Grandma and Grandpa. And he did not live in Minnesota. He lived in Cincinnati and Cleveland and California, and he was lamenting over the fact he only got to see them maybe once a year, and how lucky we were. And at the time, I didn't realize that and treasure that as much as I do now. But I do. My parents quite often would go on dates and leave the 4 of us with Grandma and Grandpa, and then they would sweep in after their date and load us up into the family car, and we'd have this sleepy, sometimes cold, especially in Minnesota winters, ride back to our home, and we were snuggled up in our snowsuits or blankets or whatever we had to keep us warm during the evening. Another fond memory I have are the barbecues in the backyard. Grandpa had built a barbecue pit into the hillside, and he used flagstone, and there was a seating bench that wrapped around the fireplace, and there was a ledge, and we all pretended we were mountain goats crawling across that ledge, and it was daring and risky, especially as a young person. The basement held all kinds of mysteries in it. Grandpa had a workshop, and they had put together a play area for the grandkids. And Grandma had her laundry area, and they had this mysterious room, and didn't understand it until later, but it was a dry cellar, and they stored food products in there, and it was in the basement, and it was dark and dank, and the home was about 100 years old, so it had some history to it. The history behind it, they claim, was that it was a pioneer house, and I always wondered who were the pioneers who chose to settle there and then sell it to my grandfather and grandmother. Um, in the living room, there was a floor-length grandfather clock, and we always marveled at it that it had to be wound daily to keep time accurately. And then growing up as an older person, I saw the simplicity of the thing. And after grandmother had died, I bought Grandpa's car. And I remember standing on the steps and he and I negotiating the price of this car. It was a 1962 Plymouth Valiant. It actually had been my Uncle Dick's car, and he had sold it to Grandpa, and now as a young teenager he was selling it to me, and I believe I purchased it for somewhere around the whopping price of $250, and that car got me through most of my college education in Minnesota. Anyway, so not so much about Thanksgiving, but memories, and they're there, about a place that no longer exists, but it does exist. It exists here. So that's it for Boo and the Stash. See you next week. Bye-bye.